What's up, Net Soldiers? I'm the Alliance, and welcome back to another video, guys. Today, we're going to be doing another tier list. It's going to be the overall 23 movies of the Infinity Saga, pretty much ranked, but it's a tier list, so there's a little bit more of dynamics on top of that. I've done a couple of videos like this in the past, so you want to check those out. I'll leave links to those in the description below. Now, before we begin, I actually haven't been posting for about like 2 weeks now. The reason for that is because I've been pretty busy with like different life stuff. I'm pretty much getting my house already. I figured I'd saw it as kind of like a break just to kind of do other stuff. And with ad revenue pretty low right now, unfortunately, it's not very lucrative to be doing a lot of videos. So until all that comes back and it's more, you know, monetarily worth it, then I will definitely be doing more videos again. But for right now, I'm just probably gonna be releasing like maybe one a week. I'll try to do two, but I'll probably just at least do one. So there's something coming out from me. So with that said, guys, let's begin. Okay, so like I said, this is going to be the 23 MCU movies so far. We have another one coming out, Black Widow, but that got moved back to November now. But this is just the Infinity Saga, so phase 1, 2, and 3. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. I have one movie in here that I know people are really going to disagree with me, and we're going to get to that eventually, and you'll know what I'm talking about when I do it, but let's just go. First off, let's start with, from canonically speaking, we're going to go from Iron Man 1 all the way to Spider-Man Far From Home. And right away, Iron Man, it's got to be A tier. Not only did this movie start this whole superhero craze, and not just the MCU itself, but it is actually a pretty solid film itself. Not just because of what it led to, but because on a standalone film, it's a very watchable and fun film. Of course, Robert Downey Jr., he came out of nowhere in this role. Like, before I knew about him, but I never really like looked at him as like an A-lister, you know. But after this role, this proved that he is a force to reckon with in Hollywood, and I think that is something that we all know now. Of course, this movie came out back in like 2008, I think, so over 10 years ago, and since then, Iron Man is one of the biggest players in the superhero game. You know, I remember back then I heard an Iron Man movie was coming out, and I'm like, Iron Man? Come on, give me Spider-Man. You know, give me more Spider-Man movies. I don't want an Iron Man. Who cares about Iron Man? And then as time went on, now I like Iron Man more than I like Spider-Man now. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. But, yeah, definitely solid A tier list. For those who don't know, S tier is pretty much like the near perfect movie or a perfect film. And then trash is just, there's nothing good about it. So, here is the Incredible Hulk. I know many people would probably put it at trash, but for me, I'm going to put it at D tier. It's still watchable. It's rough. I think if you're going to do an MCU binge and you don't want to watch every single film, this is one of those films that you can sacrifice, but it's still got some heart here and there. However, it is rough. So it's going to go in D tier, and that's where it's going to be. Iron Man 2. At one time, I might have actually put this behind Incredible Hulk, but after rewatching now, after I've seen all the films together in the Infinity War saga before watching Endgame, I went back and watched all of them, of course, and I rewatched this one, and I was surprised by how much I actually enjoyed it. I remember really disliking this film when it first came out. I thought it was trash, especially considered the first one. But if you look at it as a, you know, ranking these movies, you know, separately, of course, but also kind of, you know, taking into account what we see later on and where they lead to, I think Iron Man 2 is actually a pretty fun film. It's not necessarily good, but I was entertained by it. So I'm definitely gonna have to put it probably on a C tier, because I was entertained. It wasn't as boring as Incredible Hulk, but it was entertaining. So there is that type of value there. And I always say this in my videos, but pretty much, as long as something can entertain you, or as long as the movie is able to entertain you even just a little bit, it does succeed in that way. So even if a film is just awful, if there is a sense of entertainment in it, then there is a certain worth to it. Even if it's not a lot of worth, it's still something. So I'm going to put that there at C tier. Next one, Thor 1. I'm probably going to put this actually I'll put it right in front of Iron Man 2. So the reason why I have Thor 1 here is because while it is a fine origin film, it's not one of my favorite films in the MCU. Compared to the other ones here, it doesn't really compare. It is a solid origin film. I like the chemistry between Chris and Natalie Portman, even though it's not like great. There is that little spark of chemistry between them that you can feel. It does feel a little artificial, but there's a little bit there, so I kind of like it. And then of course I like the idea of the fish out of water type of storyline going on there. Thor loses his powers and now has to deal with different stuff in the real world. It's a good way to kind of introduce the character and making him who we're going to be seeing more of him. Now, of course, later on, when we hit Ragnarok, Thor's character changes completely, but it does change for the better. But it is kind of it's a little too quick of a change for me, in my opinion anyways. But we'll get to that as I get closer to that film. So I'm going to put that there. I think it's a solid, top C tier. Okay, Captain America, the First Avenger. So people really Captain America has since become one of the favorite Avengers. For me, he is my favorite superhero. And he only became my favorite superhero when the Winter Soldier came along, and we'll get to that film. But for me, I'm going to have to put this as a B tier. I think that this is a pretty solid film. It's a solid origin movie. It introduces the character and it makes you really like him. It makes you really want to care for him. Now, of course, you don't necessarily love him until the Winter Soldier comes along, because he kind of gets pushed behind in the background kind of in the first Avengers movie, because he wasn't the favorite Avenger yet. But this movie is definitely, when I first saw it, I thought it was fine. But now that I watch it now, I think it is a lot better than it gets credit for. So I'm going to put it at a B tier. Next one, Avengers 1. You know what? I'm going to have to put this one... Ooh, this is tough. Oh, man. Okay, I'll put it top A. For me, Avengers 1 was such a massive deal, not only for the MCU, but for the movie itself is just really good. It's just a really solid film that no one really saw coming. They kind of talked about how they wanted to bring everyone together, and that was kind of what they were leading to, which they did a good job doing that, but we didn't know how it was going to go down. We didn't know how this whole superhero dynamic was going to come together and if it was actually going to be good. And luckily, it was, and it completely transformed what we knew about the MCU and superhero movies till today. So, while I love this film, I do think there are some films that have surpassed it, but at one time, this was my favorite MCU film. So, there you go. Next one, Iron Man 3. Ooh, you know what? I might actually put Iron Man 3 right behind Incredible Hulk. It's low D tier. It's not good. I watched it recently. I gave it another chance, and it really drops the ball. Oh man! And I'm not even talking about the the Mandarin reveal. I'm not even really talking about that. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of that, but the movie, the story, just everything about it is just so rough. It doesn't feel like it was thoroughly thought out and planned. It feels, I guess you can say, rushed. I don't really know what they were doing with this film. I mean, after the Avengers film, we got introduced to this whole idea of magic. So they really could have gone really far out with the Mandarin. They could have actually made the Mandarin like the actual comic book Mandarin, but they were afraid to or something. I don't really know why they didn't. Whatever the case, in the end, Iron Man 3 is definitely my least favorite MCU film, I think. We'll see. Maybe as I go down this list, maybe I'll put more up. But we'll see. All right, next one, Thor: The Dark World. I'm going to put this one... I know this is kind of people put Thor: Dark World down there with Incredible Hulk, but for me, I'm actually probably going to put it... I actually like it a little more than the first Thor. Just a little bit. I think it's more hate than it deserves. I like the idea of, Loki and Thor having to team up. And you kind of see that more later on, but this was the first movie that introduced that idea. And when Loki sacrifices himself to save Thor, that's a really big moment. I kind of wish that they didn't do that. They didn't bring him back. I kind of wish they would have just killed him off there, because that was a good way to redeem Loki, and then maybe bring him back another way. Instead, it was just kind of it falls flat because his whole sacrifice, the whole reason for him being in the movie and becoming a good guy again, it just falls flat. So I say that dynamic would definitely have changed, but for me, I think the Dark World gets a little more hate than it deserves. I know the villain is very forgettable, Malekith, but I don't know, I like it. So yeah. Next one, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This film is going S tier. So this movie is regarded as not only one of the best MCU films, but also just a really good film overall. Not only is it a superhero film, it's a action film, it's an espionage film, it appeals to, like, you know, Jason Bourne type fans, your Mission Impossible type fans. You know, it appeals to everyone. And I think that's why this film is just so good. I think that this film was just perfectly able to encapsulate the idea of not being able to always trust people that you should be able to trust. You know, the idea that it's okay to like someone, and you could even care about that person, but you don't trust them. And that's what this whole film is about. And I just think, overall, between the relationship between bringing Bucky back, all the different events that happen in it, it is an S-tier MCU movie. Now, the question is, do any of these other films beat that one? I guess we'll have to check it out. Okay, so next we're jumping into, this one is going to probably be the most controversial one. But I'm going to put Guardians of the Galaxy down behind Iron Man 2. Now, here's the thing. People do not understand why I feel this way. And the reason for it is I just can't... I just can't bring myself to really love this film. I think it's fine. I think it's entertaining. I think the comedy is good. I think it did a really good job of bringing this unknown group of comic book characters into becoming like massive, well-known superheroes. It did a great job of that. But for me, there's something about this film that just pulls me away from the MCU. And I don't know how to explain it. I always get flack for it. And if you disagree with me, I understand 100%. But for me, I just don't see the super appeal of this film. We'll get to Volume 2 because it's gonna be interesting when you hear my thoughts on that one. But right now, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is like a low C tier. It's better, of course, than Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 3, but it's just fine. It's okay. Like, it's not great like I hear people talk about, though. Like I said, just my opinion, but that's how I feel. All right, moving on to next one, Avengers Age of Ultron. I'm going to put Avengers Age of Ultron, I'll put it a little bit ahead of Captain America, the first Avenger. So this film gets a lot more hate for some reason. I never really understood it. I think Ultron has a really cool like motive, and it makes sense being that he's a robot. That's what he should be thinking. The idea is he is created to solve all of humanity's problems, and so being a robot, he goes to the quite militaristic way of doing that, and that is, if you wish to solve everyone's problems, the only way to truly solve everyone's problems is to wipe everyone out, and therefore there are no more problems. And so that's kind of what he planned on doing, and of course that is fine for a robot to think that, of course. I mean, I'm not saying that he's in the right, that's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying that where he comes from I understand, because that's what he was programmed to believe. So of course he's going to do what he's programmed to do, and of course he's a super smart intelligent AI that just kind of transformed into a monster and became a dictator. And yeah, overall I'm just I think this film gets a lot more hate than it deserves. I think it's actually still a very good film. It's in the top 10 best MCU films in my opinion. Next one, Ant-Man 1. I'm probably going to put Ant-Man 1 right behind Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it's fine. It's nothing special about it. It's just there. So I'm not really going to go any further detail on that. Next one, Captain America 3, Civil War. I'm probably going to put Civil War right behind Iron Man 1. I think it's really awesome. It was definitely probably the biggest turning point out of all of the MCU films. It started Phase 3. It was the turning point. And it was where the Avengers broke up. But while it is an entertaining film, there are some issues as far as the plot goes. Baron Zemo's whole plan is just out of nowhere. I want to see more of where Baron Zemo is coming from, because he kind of just is there. And his story doesn't make sense. A lot of his plot relies on circumstances. So, my hope is that that gets fixed in the next one. But I guess, or it gets fixed with the Winter Soldier and Falcon TV show coming out. But, maybe not. I guess we'll see. But for right now, I'm going to put Civil War there. So while it was cool to see all of our favorite players of the MCU fight, ultimately, it's a good movie, but it has a lot of plot holes that hold it back. So that's how I feel anyways. Next one. I don't know if this is in order though. I think Spider-Man's actually here. Doctor Strange is next, I think. Okay. Next one, Doctor Strange. I'm going to put Doctor Strange behind a little bit in front of Ant-Man. I think Doctor Strange is more intriguing than Ant-Man is. Ant-Man is more funny, and Doctor Strange is more like there's more to think about. The special effects in this film are amazing. Like, if we were talking about special effects, this film would probably be number one. Let's be honest. But as far as the story and the overall presentation of the film, I think it's okay. It's a little less good than Guardians of the Galaxy, but it is better than Ant-Man in my opinion. Next one, Spider-Man Homecoming. I'm going to put this one probably like right here, right in front of Thor 2. It's still a good film, guys. Remember, like with my rankings, S tier is like perfection almost. A tier is really good. B is good. C is fine, and then D is like and then trash is trash, of course. So these are still fine films, and you could even make an argument that they are good enough, but they're not good enough to be on a B tier in my opinion. So I'm gonna put there right there in C tier. Like C tier is not crap. C tier is not bad. C tier is just fine. They're on the level of passing. They're not exactly below passing yet. So that's pretty much what I'm getting at. And the film itself was pretty good. I like the dynamic between Spider-Man and the Vulture, especially when the realization when the Vulture discovers that Peter is Spider-Man. I think that was just like you could feel that in your gut when you're watching the film. So I think that's cool that they could actually produce that. There are some plot holes in this film as well. For instance, how the Vulture destroyed his own plane at the end. Made no sense for him to do that, but he did it. So he kind of shot himself in the foot. But hey, maybe that's just my opinion, of course. Yeah, but overall, I think that's solid. Yeah. Okay, so I think Guardians of the Galaxy is next. Okay, yeah, so Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I'm going to put that one right here between Ultron and Captain America. The first film relied a lot on trying to get you into liking these characters. Of course, that's what the film is supposed to do. It's the introductory film, so it should be making you like these characters. This film was able to take those characters and run with them. Take us to a story point that I didn't see coming, and with like Peter Quill and his father, and pretty much just like make this entire storyline that comes out of nowhere, but still really works well. And it's overall a better film than the first one in my opinion, and it definitely meshes better with the MCU as a whole. Like I said, just my opinion, but that's how I feel. Okay, moving on, Thor Ragnarok. When I first saw Thor Ragnarok, I actually disliked it more than Thor 1 and 2. The reason for that is because I kind of felt betrayed because Thor's character was completely massacred. He was not the same Thor. That was the part that bothered me. However, as time has gone on and we've seen, Infinity War and Endgame, and we've seen that Thor has actually become a more, I wouldn't say progressive character, but a more entertaining character because of that shift in his character. I'm going to put this film right behind Captain America, the First Avenger. It's a fun film. It's entertaining as heck. It is a good, solid movie. But there are other MC movies that I just personally feel are better, fit the tone better. And like I said, it's because of the hindrance in Thor's personality. Before, in the first two films, he was kind of like a stoic oaf. You know what I mean? But like he was a stoic guy, but he was still a smart man. It's just he ended up sometimes being like Homer Simpson-ish, Now, they completely derailed him and made him Homer Simpson almost with in Ragnarok. So there's a character trait that they didn't really have like a bridge. It was like he was stoic and he was still smart with a little hint of dumb, and now he's just like dumb, funny, and good looking. It's just like, I don't know if I necessarily like that. I have of course come around to it, but it was a little too jarring when this film first came out, at least for me. So that's why it is hindered. But overall, it is a better film than the first two, so it's ahead of it now. Okay, next one, Black Panther. I'm going to put Black Panther maybe like... I'll put it here. I like Black Panther. I think it's a little... It's definitely not a, like, fine film. It's a good film. There are elements to it that kind of hold it back. For instance, it's pretty much just The Lion King, but with humans. That's probably the biggest thing that holds it back. But there were some really cool moments too, like Killmonger, Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger. He was awesome. I really hope he comes back in some shape or form. There's been rumors that he might be showing back up in some way. I don't know how they're going to do it. I kind of like if they brought him back as an ally. It'd be cool to see him and T'Challa kind of like, kind of act like Goku and Vegeta. If you guys know that reference, I'm sure you guys have watched or at least heard of Dragon Ball Z before. Kind of have like that hero and anti-hero type of thing. So while he is trying to be good, he still is mainly evil. So it's going to be interesting to see them balance each other out. So I'd like to see that. Now, the film, it's fun. The last act of the film, a little rough. I know that they did the CGI for that film in like 6 weeks, which is amazing that they actually managed to do that. It might actually have been like 6 weeks to just a month. Amazing for what they did, but it definitely needs more work. So if they're going to do like an MCU special edition where they go back to all these older films, they edit things, maybe they take out the original Rhodey character and they actually would somehow put the new one in or something like that, like through all these films, and then they can go back and they can fix up the CGI for that final scene. I think it'll be a lot better. But good film. But it is hindered, so I'm going to keep it where it is. Okay, now we're down to the big five. When I say big five, pretty much the last five, because there's only two big ones in this one. But before I get to Infinity War, I'm going to get rid of some of these other ones here. Ant-Man and the Wasp. I liked it. I actually liked it a little bit more than the first Ant-Man, but it wasn't a good film, so it's going to go. It's a fine film. It's passable, so it's going to go a little bit ahead of the first Ant-Man. Next one, Captain Marvel. I like Captain Marvel. I actually liked it more than I like Spider-Man, so it's going to go right in front of Spider-Man. Regardless of how you feel about Brie Larson, I don't mind her. I think she does a good job with the character, and I think that it was a good origin story overall, so I like it. I don't usually take in politics when it comes to movies, but regardless of how you feel about Brie Larson and her comments, I think she does a decent job as Captain Marvel. And I liked the film, so it was an overall good story, so I'll take it. Far From Home. I'm probably going to put Far From Home a little bit better than Captain Marvel, in my opinion. It was better than the first Spider-Man. I like the idea of it being like a vacation film, but for superheroes. I was really into the idea of Mysterio actually being a hero. I thought that they were going to the trailers led you to believe that Mysterio was going to be a hero, and we know that Mysterio isn't like that at all in the comics. So I was kind of liking the idea that they were going to actually go with that he was actually going to be the hero, and then there was a villain who maybe mind controlled him, and that's what made him evil. Something along those lines would have been really cool, but they didn't do that. So, kind of hinders it because you see it coming from a mile away. Still a good film, but if you are even remotely familiar with Mysterio or Spider-Man comics, you see this turn coming from a mile away, and it's just not very it's too obvious. So it kind of does take away from the whole story element anyways. But that's how I feel. Now, the final big two. Infinity War, I'm going to put right here. Right in front of the original Avengers. I've come around to Infinity War. When Infinity War first came out, I did not like the portrayal of Thanos. I liked the idea of comic Thanos, the pure evil Thanos. So when they introduced this completely changed Thanos, this character that we've never, really seen before, it bothered me because it was like, this is not the evil Thanos that we've been setting up through the rest of the MCU. You know, if you watch all the previous movies with Thanos mentioned or talked about or even seen, he is just pure evil. That's what they were setting it up to be. But when the Russo brothers took over the story, they changed it so he's not pure evil. He's actually trying to do the best thing that he feels. And so to others, it might be viewed evil. But the whole setup from what we've been seeing so far, it doesn't really link up very well. However, I've come around to this movie now. And the craziest thing about this movie is that our villain is our main character. The person who has the most screen time, the person we follow the most, the storyline we see for Infinity War. It's not Captain America. It's not Iron Man. It's Thanos. Thanos is the main character of that film. And I think that's so interesting. They could actually take this villain, make you kind of understand his motivations, and then also kind of make him the main character of the entire film. It's crazy. Crazy how well they did that. And it's a solid film overall. So I'm going to give it's better than the original Avengers now, in my opinion. But I still think Captain America the Winter Soldier is a better overall film. Now, we come to the big Mac Daddy. You know, technically, Far From Home is the last in this Infinity Saga, but Endgame is the real finale. You know, that's kind of just like a little dessert. Endgame is the entree. This is what we've been waiting for. For me, I have to put Endgame, it's going to have to go in trash. Now, of course, I'm kidding. It's not trash. This movie is definitely, oh man, I don't know. I'm going to put it behind Captain America Winter Soldier, just because Captain America Winter Soldier is just overall a super solid movie from the beginning to end. Infinity War does a really good job of bringing all our characters back to fight this single threat. Endgame, while the first, you know, I'd say that the first act of the film is good. The second act is is fine, and the third act is amazing. So, it does beg the question, does the third act really work well? Does it make the film itself better? I think that the movie's finale is so good, bringing all the heroes together. It's so great that I can forgive any other problems with the rest of the film. And that's something that I don't think every movie can do. This movie is the culmination of years of preparing, of characters growing, of storylines finally coming to a head. This is something that we've been waiting for 10 years. And I think that it was a very solid film. Maybe I shouldn't say solid film. It's a very, very good film. Not the best MCU film, but definitely, it has to be in like your top 5. I think Infinity War and Endgame, they have to be in your top 5. At least in my opinion. So there you go, guys. That is my MCU movies tier list. How do you guys think about this? Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know in the comments below. What are your favorite movies? How would you rank these films? Let me know down there. If you want to see me do any other type of tier lists like this, it can be for other movie franchises or specific characters in the MCU or, you know, whatever. Let me know in the comments below, and if I do your suggestion, I will actually when I do the video, I'll give you a shout out. So with that said, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later. Peace.